Reacher and Rebel Ridge prove the upcoming remake of Clint Eastwood's classic Western movie, A Fistful of Dollars, can actually work after Reacher and Rebel Ridge's success. It seems possible that even a remake of Clint Eastwood's spaghetti western, A Fistful of Dollars, might actually work. Although most details surrounding the upcoming remake of A Fistful of Dollars are under the covers, there is already an air of skepticism around it. Many viewers cannot help but believe that the classic Western does not need a remake because it stands the test of time, and remakes, in general, are known to often fall short of capturing the essence of the original. Given how the Dollars trilogy is often touted as one of the best movie franchises ever created, the remake has the massive responsibility of living up to the high standards set by the original films. Owing to this, it is understandable why many viewers already believe A Fistful of Dollars remake is doomed to fail. However, a closer look at modern day takes on A Fistful of Dollars, lone wolf, and mysterious stranger tropes in shows and movies like Rebel Ridge and Reacher raises hope that the remake could etch its identity in the Western genre. Reacher and Rebel Ridge highlight the enduring appeal of lone wolf characters. The lone wolf trope has probably existed since the earliest days of storytelling, and its origins can likely be traced to ancient myths and legends. However, despite being one of the oldest storytelling devices, especially in the action genre, it still seems to have an undying appeal. This has been proven by the success of modern shows like Amazon's Reacher, which adopts the trope by portraying Jack Reacher as a solitary figure who proudly calls himself a hobo. In each new season of the series, Reacher arrives in a new town as a mysterious stranger and serves justice to wrongdoers before fleeing the scene. Rebel Ridge's Terry Richmond does something similar by standing tall in the face of extreme corruption and injustice. Despite being pressed by the law enforcers of a small town, the character continues to embody resilience and moral conviction. Although Terry Richmond and Jack Reacher are unique in more ways than one, they can be seen as echoes of all the lone wolf characters that have captivated audiences throughout history. Yet, even though they seem familiar, it is hard not to be compelled by their conviction to take down oppression and their courage to stand alone. Even from a critical standpoint, both Rebel Ridge and Reacher have performed incredibly well. While Rebel Ridge boasts a Rotten Tomatoes critics score of 96%, Reacher has averaged a score of 95% across 2 seasons. Both highlight how audiences would enjoy seeing a new take on A Fistful of Dollars, which is known for portraying one of the most badass lone wolf characters. Clint Eastwood's The Man with No Name is one of the best lone wolf characters in cinema. Even though Clint Eastwood's The Man with No Name defies all societal norms, he carries himself with a sense of discipline and resolve that demands respect. Although he lets his actions do most of the talking, his words can be as piercing as the bullets from his gun because he puts immense thought behind everything he says. What makes The Man with No Name all the more intriguing is that he does not represent the typical morally righteous hero. There is always an air of ambiguity surrounding his morality as he helps the oppressed while also seeking personal gains. With his iconic squinty eyes and cold delivery of The Man with No Name's memorable quotes, Clint Eastwood also creates a striking visual and emotional impact in every sequence from the movie trilogy. Although his dialogue is minimal, he carries himself with a sense of commanding stoicism and charisma that draws all the attention towards him every time he shows up on the screen. As a viewer, it is also hard not to be fascinated by how a character like The Man with No Name epitomizes independence and self-sufficiency by single-handedly taking down formidable enemies. The idea of remaking a classic Western like A Fistful of Dollars, originally directed by Sergio Leone and starring Clint Eastwood, seems like a daunting task at first. After all, Eastwood's performance as the mysterious man with no name has become iconic, and Leone's influence on the Western genre is immeasurable. However, recent projects like Reacher and Rebel Ridge demonstrate that with the right approach, remaking this legendary film could not only work, but also resonate with modern audiences. These two works serve as blueprints, showing how updated narratives, characters, and visual styles can reinvent classic Western tropes for a contemporary audience, offering both respect for tradition and the innovation needed to make it relevant today. The grit and complexity of modern anti-heroes, one of the reasons why A Fistful of Dollars remake could succeed, lies in how modern anti-heroes are being developed in current media. Both Reacher, the Amazon Prime series based on the Jack Reacher novels by Lee Child, and Rebel Ridge, a thriller centered around a man fighting corrupt forces in a rural, lawless region, present leads who embody the same steely grit and quiet intensity that made Eastwood's character so compelling. In Reacher, we see a character who, like Eastwood's man with no name, is a wanderer who speaks little but acts with brutal efficiency. Alan Ritchson's portrayal of Jack Reacher emphasizes physicality and sharp intellect, giving audiences a protagonist who is self-reliant and morally ambiguous, traits that could easily translate to a reimagined A Fistful of Dollars character. Reacher, with his minimal dialogue and maximum impact, echoes the man with no name's archetype of the lone gunman who operates outside the bounds of traditional law and order. This is exactly the type of character that a new Fistful of Dollars would need. Someone who, like Reacher, thrives in a world of moral gray areas, but still has an underlying code of justice. Similarly, Rebel Ridge explores a protagonist who takes the law into his own hands when confronted by systemic corruption and violence. The film's lead represents the modern evolution of the classic Western hero, a man who is not only battling individual villains, but also fighting against an unjust system. This adds a layer of complexity to the anti-hero archetype that could be crucial for an A Fistful of Dollars remake. The original film's central conflict between the rival gangs controlling the town could be expanded to include more systemic critiques, making the story not just about personal revenge or profit, but about larger social dynamics, such as inequality, corruption, and the cost of violence in A Lawless Frontier. Updating the visual style. Another key element that could make an A Fistful of Dollars remake work is the visual language used to tell the story. Leone's original film was known for its sweeping, almost operatic-style close-ups on faces, wide shots of desolate landscapes, and the use of silence to build tension. While this style is iconic, modern films like Reacher and Rebel Ridge have shown that there are new ways to update this visual aesthetic without losing the essence of the Western. In Reacher, for instance, the cinematography focuses on showcasing the brutality and efficiency of the protagonist's movements in combat, while also emphasizing the rural, small-town settings that give the show a distinctly Western feel. The series blends modern action techniques with the slower, more deliberate pacing of classic Westerns, creating a sense of tension and atmosphere that feels both timeless and fresh. A remake of A Fistful of Dollars could employ a similar strategy, using dynamic camera work and intense, visceral action sequences to keep modern viewers engaged, while also paying homage to the slower, tension-filled moments that made the original film so memorable. Rebel Ridge takes a different approach, focusing on the isolation and claustrophobia of its rural setting to create a sense of impending violence. This atmospheric tension is reminiscent of Leone's work, but is updated with more kinetic camera work and modern sound design, creating an immersive experience for the audience. A new A Fistful of Dollars could benefit from this approach by using modern filmmaking technology to enhance the audience's immersion in the dusty, dangerous world of the Western frontier. Drones, for example, could capture stunning, sweeping vistas of the desert landscapes, while modern soundscapes could deepen the tension of gunfights and standoffs, making the viewer feel like they are right in the middle of the action. Expanding the story's themes, one of the areas where an A Fistful of Dollars remake could truly innovate is in